I need to thank Billy and Bernard really, because it was their fault I'm here. And thank you guys for letting me come along and chat and saying me about my little trip. Some of the videos I put in here haven't been cut and short, they've just been straight out of the camera, so you have to just put up with a little bits of shaking and non-professional stuff. One of the hardest things you find out when you're on the road trying to do a video of yourself is what do you take pictures of and how do you do it. You need a tripod, you need to be able to be heard by the camera, which is another thing I never thought about. So most of the videos are of me talking to the camera because what else do you show? It's quite a difficult thing. Anyway, Road to Manchester. Let's just try this thing, see if it's going to work for me. Oh, there you go. The idea came from a man from Manchester.com, a website trying to sell me advertising space. I had my own business. My business wasn't really suitable for Manchester.com because that's more of a tourist type website. What I did find out was an interesting page, the other Manchesters. You don't think about it. I'm from Manchester, I've lived there all my life. What is the other Manchesters? So you go onto this page, and apparently there's 52 places in the world called Manchester. 32 of them are actually towns, plus our own, which is 33. So instantly, this is 2008, 2009. I thought, there's a road trip. There's going to be a road trip involved somewhere in that. So the idea was, as 32 of them are in America or Canada, that became the trip. So Road2Manchester became a little secret of mine. 32 places, plus Manchester here, that's 33. Can I get to all in one hit on a motorbike? That was the start of the project. So 2009, without anybody knowing, including my good lady over here, Sharon, I set up a Facebook page, a Twitter page, a blog. The blog, very cleverly called United States of Manchester. It's good, isn't it? I thought it was really good. Anyway, I set these things up with the sole intentions of just feeding information. The Twitter and Facebook, the new big things in that, 5 years ago now. Can I find a sponsor by just pretending this is going to happen? So literally for 2 years, I just kept, when I was sat in front of the TV with my laptop on my belly, which is, obviously it's a good table this, so you can sit there with it like that. Just keep feeding information in. Nobody knew about it. One person in my family found out about it. It was my now son-in-law, who at the time was my daughter's boyfriend. He sort of quietly said one day to me in a corner, "What's Road to Manchester, Pete?" I went, "Oh, keep it to yourself." I said, "Nothing, it's just a little thing I'm doing, see what happens." So anyway, 2 years. I eventually gave up on it, but not quite, because what happened was Bennett's, we've all heard of Bennett's bike insurance, they came up with a great idea of it's a promotion, but you obviously instantly think, all Bennett's is trying to do is get your name and address so they can bother you, But anyway, I filled the form in. What's your biker dream? And then they gave you a blank space. So my biker dream answer was, there are 32 towns called Manchester, 32 in the USA, a road trip if ever I saw one, here's my blog. That was it, sent it away. That was in, give me dates right, November, December 2010. So anyway, 2011 turns up, and in January, my very last insert, whatever you call it, my very last blog was, I've got better things to do myself at the moment, I'm going to leave this for a bit, I basically can't be bothered, nothing's happening. What I didn't know was, at that moment in time, there was 2 or 3 emails waiting for me on one of my very little used email addresses from Bennett's. They'd seen the actual thing, they were doing this competition, they were giving people, it's not just one prize, there was an unlimited number of prizes available if you came up with something good. So one day I just answered the email, and I got a phone call, can you come to Hull and see the PR company and Bennett's and various other people about your trip, we're interested. So the original idea, this is the result of this is my t-shirt we gave me. It's not a barrage balloon, it's me. That's the t-shirt they eventually made for me. My idea actually was the Charlie and Ewan thing, because everybody else, they got away with it, so why not somebody else? The idea was, this is going to happen, we're going to find a celebrity from Manchester who rides a motorbike who's available, I'm going to be his Charlie. So basically, be my Charlie. They came up with the concept. They said to me, are you serious about doing this TV programme? I said, oh yeah. So they made me, Benny's sat here with a camera now, they made me sit there in front of a camera and explain to the camera what I wanted to do. This was after a nice cool ride to Hull in February, over the M62, you can imagine how cold I was, Anyway, yeah, so they said, yeah, we're interested. We've got Yamaha interested in supplying the bike. We've got the company currently filming Billy Connolly in the USA doing Route 66. They're interested in doing the filming. All we've got to do is find a celebrity. Great. So that was the problem. That was the issue. This is now end of February. They want me to go in June, May, June of that year, 2011. That was, what should we call it? Ring me up. Sounds good to me. Anyway, the search was on for a celebrity, and this was the big hiccup. They wouldn't tell me what was happening, and there's these great big long pregnant pauses in all this time. April, nothing, absolutely nothing happening, because the PR company are looking for a celebrity. Now, celebrities in general, it's a fine line, think about it. Manchester, biker, available. You know, any one of those three is virtually impossible. So, you know, off they went and off they tried to find. The first job they came up with was Keith Duffy. He was dead interested for 2012, because he was busy in 2011. A, he's Irish, and B, he's not from Manchester, and C, he's in Coronation Street in Boyzone. And that was it. Now then, there was a bright spark on the horizon. I found out about Keith Duffy much later. I put him in now because it's relevant. A young girl at the PR company answered the phone one day, and I was chatting to see what's happening. Oh, we think we found somebody. It's a girl. I said, right, okay, all right. Just passed the test. I went, right, okay. Who's the girl? Yeah, right,
And she is?
she was in Hollyoaks.
Page 3.
She's 23 and from Bury. She just passed the test, allegedly.
What's Hollyoaks?
Some TV programme you won't know about them. And anyway, it turns out that she just passed the CBT, and there's no way she could do 300 or 400 miles a day on a big bike, because it was going to be 2 bikes. And of course, Sharon wasn't very happy either. So, cut a long story short, they were still struggling. Yamaha pulled out because there's no celebrity, and the TV company pulled out because there's no celebrity. But this was the last minute stuff. I ended up going to Skegness, to the motorcycle news event at Skegness, where I met the Bennett biker babes, and did a couple of toes with the old biker there, racer, some more biker babes. We spent the weekend there just doing promotional work and telling people, we're still filling forms in for the biker, with my dream thing. Spent the weekend there, did that. Then we did the Thunder Sprint at North, which you'll all know about. Met a couple more guys. Again, just stood on the stand talking to people and saying I'm on my way next week. At this event, which I can't remember the exact date now, it must have been beginning of May, I guess, 2nd or 3rd of May usually. I'm stood on the stand on a Sunday, and I get a phone call from Bennett's. Now, the Bennett's PR people are there. It's the boss. It's the boss of Bennett's. Has Michael told you about the change in plans? No. Oh, you know how you go in a week on Friday? I said, yeah. Well, you're not going a week on Friday anymore, because if you get back a week earlier, you can put your bike into the Manchester Parade. You're going next Friday. So it all happened very, very quickly. Bit of PR in Manchester, that was the original plan. 33 Manchesters in 36 days, 9,747 miles was the alleged route. Now, of course, we all know that you take long turnings and turn around in car parks and do what you do, So anyway, excuse my computer telling me to do that. Just do it. Don't blame.
Down a bit, left a bit.
So anyway, I don't know what the next what this is, so I have to just go for it.
No, he's broke.
Computer's playing up. Oh, it's a video. There you go.
It's Friday the 13th today, but it's not an unlucky day for Pete Johnson. He's got the Bennett's biker dream. He's off to every Manchester in North America, in Canada and the USA. Pete, tell us a little bit, how did this dream start?
About 3 years ago I discovered there's actually 36 towns called Manchester in the world. I guess that somebody at some point in history came from Manchester, England, went to America and named their town Manchester. So I thought, there's a trick.
Now, which Manchester are you going to hit first, and are you going straight across, or is it a zigzag trip? How's it going to work?
It's a crazy zigzag trip. I'm actually hitting Boston.
By the way, TV
Tomorrow I'll be picking up the bike in Boston. And actually, it's like up and down like a big letter W for the first probably 3 weeks. But just under 10,000 miles, it should take 35 days.
So what bike are you doing this fantastic trip on?
I'm using a Honda Goldwing 1800, a big comfy cruiser. I have just about completely filled my iPod with rock music, of course. I will have a helmet camera, I will have a handheld camera, and my own stills camera, so I've got plenty to do.
Now Pete, the great thing nowadays, of course, we can follow you wherever you are. We can stalk you on Twitter and Facebook. And you're doing a blog. Give us the sort of internet URLs, the addresses where people can keep tabs on where you are.
Right, we've got Road2Manchester, which is the number 2. That's on Twitter. On Facebook, I am Road2Manchester, but that's words, not numbers.
Yeah.
And my blog is quite long. It's United States of a Manchester.blogspot.com.
What's the most unusual Manchester that's on your itinerary?
There's Manchester, South Dakota. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's literally one of these roads where there's 200 miles in all directions, just straight roads. Manchester, South Dakota got blown away in a hurricane. All there is concrete pads where the houses used to be. But it just fascinates me. I've got to go to that one.
Is there any other part of America which is kind of on your wish list that you've always wanted to see?
There's actually not necessarily a place, but there's actually a road called the Dragon's Tail in Tennessee. 380 bends in 11 miles. There's nowhere specific. I want to go see them all. Just one thing before I go. You can always follow me through Bennett's Biker on Facebook.
Smoothly done, Pete. Very smooth. We like it. Cheers, buddy. Good luck.
Bike Talk TV was a kind of internet bike sort of TV programme, but they failed after about 3 months, so it didn't really go very far. That was outside the BBC in Manchester. Now, the day I left was a Friday the 13th of May 2011. Great day to fly.
Yeah.
I was on the way. I had to go to BBC Manchester at 8 o'clock in the morning. That was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then I would go straight to the airport and get on the plane. That's how crazy the week before was. Radio, Rock FM, and all these. I had two phone calls at the airport. Again, radio stations doing interviews. So it got a bit crazy.
Was the bike waiting for you out?
Yes, they rented a bike over in America for me. So the actual route looked something like that, the original plan. There's a guy called Harry Stottle that puts poems on Facebook. Can't see that. A man going somewhere will probably arrive, a man going nowhere usually gets there. Anyway, this is the route that I originally planned. So we're looking at starting off in Boston in Massachusetts, going north, south, east, west, into Canada, down to North Carolina, then back up again. That was the original plan. Things did change, which I'll explain as we go along. Let's say that was 9,700 miles roughly. The bike. I arrived in Boston on very, very late on Friday the 13th. Jumped off a plane and saw this telephone on the wall that said, "Courtesy bus to the Hilton Hotel." And I booked into the Hilton Hotel. So I picked up the phone, "Pick me up please." He said, "Which hotel are you booked in?" Blah, blah, blah. "I'll just check, sir, thank you." "No, you're not booked into this hotel." "Well, are you sure?" I went, "Yes, definitely not." Right, okay, so read out what it says on the ticket. I said it says something by Hilton. So no, that's not us, that's down the road. Thank you very much, put the phone down. So this guy I'd never thought about, how do you get from the whole, so it was a $90 in a taxi. Thanks very much, never thought about that a bit. I've got a budget. What I'd like to say to you about Bennett's, which was they paid me £1,000 a month for 2 months because they were concerned about me losing money and not working, self-employed. Didn't want to take any jobs on because I didn't know when I was going. So for the first 2 months, they put £1,000 in my bank. Thanks very much. The day I left, they put £6,900 into my bank for my expenses, and they paid for the flight, the hotel, there and back, basically. So it was all paid for. Some people have said that my adventure, and I use the word, the term very loosely, was not a real adventure because somebody else was in control. They were in control until I got on the plane in Manchester, and then I was on my own. So it's very nice to get paid to do it in almost, get the money in the bank. I didn't have to worry about the budget. One of the issues with the bike was they were struggling to find a bike for me to use, not because of 2 things. One was the distance I was going, starting off on the East Coast, ending up on the West Coast. The other thing is, due to political reasons, they couldn't use the Harley, which they originally wanted to do. I won't go into that, but it was just political back in the UK. The PR company already was a PR company for Harley, so they didn't want to tread on anybody's toes. So this is the machine I ended up on. Motorcycles of Manchester in Boston was the company I went to, and picked up an 1800 Goldwing, thank you very much. A little bit of a video now, which again is very uncut, but please put up with it.
Hi there, it's Saturday morning, about 11 o'clock. We're at Boston Honda, Victory of the Honda dealers, just outside Boston. What a place, what a place. I want to show you this. This is the biggest dealership I've ever seen. We have bikes here I've never seen, Victories, thousands of different models. These are the biggest second-hand bike dealer in Boston. Suzuki off-roaders, a couple of Harley boys down there. Over in the corner down there, you can see that, they're having a barbecue this afternoon. They've got an open day today. So there's free barbie this afternoon, free coffees. Just been invited out for an evening meal with the boss, if I can stay awake. They also do Polaris here, the Polaris off-roaders, quads. As you can see, it's a busy place. So I'm just loading up the bike. Oh, I suppose you're interested in the bike, aren't you? I forgot about that. It is a Honda Goldwing, it is a red one, and it is a beastie. Have a look at this. Just packing up a few bits on it at the moment, trying to work out how the sat-nav works. But it's a monster. It's only done about 9,000 miles from you, so I'll soon put a few on that. So it'll be about 19,000 miles by the time I finish with it. I've got plenty of boot space, so I just saw this chap going past. There are some cool dudes in this neighbourhood, I tell you. These guys coming in. Like a man and white team. This is a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. You show me a place anywhere in England that's like this at this time of the day. Anyway, back to the Goldwing. Here we have the machine. Massachusetts number plate. I've started collecting badges for my hat. I'm going to try and fill this with badges before we finish.
So again, it's meant to be fallen cut and a little bit rough because the video is very high definition, but the sound isn't, so you can sort of judge a little bit. I apologise for that. So anyway, day one, I get back onto the hotel on Saturday afternoon. Manchester weather, yeah, well done. I mean, literally, I got Bennett sent me a box. This is like 2 or 3 days before I left England. Inside the box was a brand new, sort of small notebook laptop. A video camera brand new in the box, an autocom kit. We've seen the autocoms are about this big, with lots of little inputs and things. An autocom video camera, helmet camera, bullet, and a microphone, so I could basically wire it all in. They wanted loads of stuff for their PR team to play with. All I had was just roller sticky tape and a Swiss Army knife. So I literally spent the rest of Saturday in the hotel car park, trying to even consider how these bloody things work. I've got instruction books and I had no chance. The other thing I found out, which was a bit annoying, was the actual bullet camera I had wouldn't charge. So you've got this bullet camera, a little box and this other stuff. I just couldn't get it to charge, and I found out much later that in actual fact it wouldn't work on there 2 or 110 volts, whatever it is, so the voltage was all cocked up. So about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock on Saturday, I just gave up on that and just threw it all in the bag. I even bought a sat-nav. They told me the bike wouldn't have a sat-nav on it. So I actually went out and I had a BMW 1200. So I thought I might as well buy a BMW 1200 sat-nav, so when I get home I can bolt it onto mine. I found one in Southport on eBay for about 250 quid. Oh, brilliant, you know, the proper Garmin one, but BMW, blah, 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 blah. There's loads of stuff. You've got another charger, another bracket. When I got there, the bloody bike's got a sat-nav on it, so that's something else I've got to carry around with me for a month. So anyway, next morning I get up, and it's about 6 o'clock. I've got a suitcase which I was going to leave there. The idea was just to pack the bike and leave the suitcase in the bin, which I did. Worry about packing when I get up, when I get to the other end. And it was damp. It was spitting a little bit. It was damp. Boston's a great big city. It's like being in London. I set off on this dual carriage. Oh, first of all, set the sat-nav from Manchester by the sea, which was about 40 miles away. So Manchester by the Sea, avoid highways. I want to do the old routes, you know, bang, 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 bang. Get it in there, set off in a completely wrong way. Round some industrial estate first, and then eventually onto this dual carriageway. So I'm taking my time. It's a new bike. I'm in a new country. I'm on the wrong side of the road. All these things are going through my mind. I'm a bit tired as well because the previous week was just a crazy week of PR and stuff. So I set off and I'm doing 45 miles an hour down this dual carriageway, and I'm going through puddles and a bit of wet road. I can hear this pickup truck coming. This thing's, I mean, we have big pickup trucks over here, but you haven't seen nothing like the ones they have over there. They won't fit in this bloody room, you know. This thing comes up next to me and the guy's like, I've got my little Union Jack on the back by now, I've done that. Got my Bennett stickers and my Union Jack stickers on the bike. And he comes up next to me and looks at me and goes, morning, there's a bit of a wave. Then he shoots off. Just as he shoots off, there's a massive puddle in his lane. And I get completely soaked head to toe. And as it hits this puddle, this water goes kapow in the air, of course I spit it. So I've done about a mile. Absolutely soaked. And the rest of the day was literally like that. This was at the end of the first day when I got to the hotel. It just rained incessantly for the whole day. And what I'd done, mistakenly, is mistaken a highway for a motorway. So you've got freeway, highway, and basically everything else in America. So when it said on the sat-nav, avoid freeways, that's okay, that's a motorway, but it doesn't, it says avoid highways. So a highway is a bit like driving from, I'm trying to think where we are, if you came down the A49 into Warrington, that's a highway, yeah? That's a side road, that's not even registered on the sat-nav. When you get to Warrington, it becomes a highway, because Warrington are paying for that and they want the proper name on it. So what does the sat-nav do? It takes you down the back streets, off the highway, through a car park, through a schoolyard, and then back onto the highway once you get to the other side of town. And it took me about 3 days to figure that out, you know, so sat-navs are not the answer. So anyway, first day, nice and wet, I get to Manchester number 1, which is allegedly 40 miles, actually it took me half a day to get there. Manchester number 1, you know, nothing to report, it's just a lovely little town by the sea. We call it Manchester by the Sea, because, well, it's me getting wet again. Manchester by the Sea gets mixed up with Manchester, New Hampshire, which is the next one, about 45, 50 miles away. I think the postman just got a bit pissed off, so he decided to call it Manchester by the Sea. Saves him a lot of messing about. So I say, it does get damp out there. Between Boston and Manchester by the Sea is Salem. Who's heard of Salem's Lot? Yeah. We've all been there. Salem actually is an Arabic word for welcome. And in America, there's an awful lot of Salems. There's theory that Salford is actually named after Salem. Sale itself, right where we now live, again, it probably comes from the Arabic word Salem, for welcome. So this is the original witch's house, and I suppose it's a bit like Pendle Hill. It's a bit of a nonsense that's been blown out of all proportions. But this is like 9 o'clock on a Sunday morning, so there's not a lot happening. Then I do Manchester by the Sea, and I set off again, and I'm going for Manchester, New Hampshire, which is number 2, 40, 50 miles away. I mean, you can't really see him because he's got a lovely torch for an earring there. This guy called Ben Slavin found me on Facebook, because back in England, Bennett's are doing the PR game. My blog, which I mentioned earlier, had 456 hits in 3 years. We're up to 3,500, and the reason was that the BBC got hold of it. PR company doing their bit, so I have to keep doing this because this is what shoot. One day we'll activate Windows and see what happens. Anyway, Ben had found me on Facebook and invited me to stay at his house. As it happens, I turned up a bit early for him. He was still at work and ended up just because I was so bloody wet by then. I just pulled into the first hotel I came to. He rang me, took me out for dinner at the Arrow Diner, which is Ben Stiller's little cafe in Manchester, New Hampshire. Biggest one I went to, proper city. Biggest mill in the world, into cotton, into steel, and tobacco. A bit like Manchester, England, probably the first and last big Manchester there was. You're driving down the road. You're on the Pacific East Highway. The Atlantic Highway. A lot of seafood restaurants, but it's too early. I love seafood, but it's before lunch, and I'm not going to start stopping for lobster at 9 o'clock in the morning. I did call into a mall, which was quite interesting. We know the Trafford Centre around here. It's a big place, and there's the Golden Square, big place. You've not seen a mall like these places. At 8:30 in the morning, nothing's open. You're up until 10, but there's hundreds of people in there. and they're all jogging. There's not these like 93 stone women in high-vis lycra. They've got the thing for the radio, for the iPod here, and they've got the drinks with the handles on the drinks bottles, and they're off walking down the old in the air conditioning because it's nice and cool. You don't think of that, do you? I said, it's raining outside. I think it's because of the rain. They say, no, it's because in the summer it's cool in here. And the coffee shops are open and things like that, So I called in and got some bits I needed and then set off. But anyway, I saw this sign, which just made me giggle, that's why I stopped. The American Stonehenge. So they're talking about this, 4,000-year-old stones that are up on this mountain. But right then it just made me giggle. It says, such as these things, is accurately plot many solar lunar events such as solstices, equinoxes, as well as many ancient holidays. Very good for you. Anyway, I turned to the road you can see in the background here. It's a bit of a dirt track. I come to this privately owned estate, which is the American Stonehenge. And they've got this hut, which has got a paper mache model of the Stonehenge in it, which is a bit sad, to be honest. It was a bit, a bit aged and knackered. So I said to this lady, so where's the henge then? If you walk up the hill there for about half a mile, I've absolutely thrown it down still. So that's as much as I got with that thing. So anyway, I was going to use a pointer, but I haven't got one. So you can look where it just says Massachusetts, number 8. I'm heading north basically to go up to Maine. So my plan is I've done Boston, New Hampshire, Maine. I stopped the night. Vermont, Connecticut. These areas are quite stunning areas, a bit like a cross between Wales and Belgium. A lot of trees. Certainly Vermont is a ski resort, so you're talking about being in mountains. I have this difficulty with the word mountain in America because everything from something that tall, when you're on a flat plane, going nowhere, to something the size of a proper mountain is classed as a mountain. Now Ben Slavin, who I mentioned earlier, said to me, if you get into the main area, particularly there's a Mount Washington, which is a switchback road a little bit like Pikes Peak. Have you heard of Pikes Peak? It's worth going. It's worth going up there. It's a good run. It's a nice tarmac road. But there's no barriers, and there's 3,000-foot drops, so you have to be careful. Anyway, because of the weather, of course, it was shut because nobody could find it. Didn't even see the bloody thing. It was just fog and rain and awful. So anyway, these are the sort of this is my first few days of travelling. We've got a video. What have we got?
Hi Pete, welcome to Manchester, Maine.
That's fantastic, thank you.
That simply is, I suddenly realised what we're doing here. I'm visiting all these towns, and most towns are just the same. It's just a small enclave of people. Nobody remembers the pilgrim fathers coming across from Manchester and calling their little bit of patch of land Manchester. So I thought I had to do something, so I started doing that just anywhere. I ended up in car showrooms, ended up in post offices, in the town hall if I could find one, the fire station. Just go in and say, hello, I'm Pete from Manchester, England. I talk funny because I'm not from around here. I'm visiting, and then see what happens. People giving me T-shirts and giving me welcome invites to things I should have gone to. So it was quite interesting. But that was just one lady in a gas station. Anyway, a few days passed by, and I'm on the way to New York. Now, New York, you've all heard the song. Who realises that New York State is bigger than Britain? It's absolutely massive. New York is the city which I avoided. New York State took 2 days to get over. It's a big area, but the weather was just getting worse and worse. And then, I was actually heading on a dry bit. It was a dry morning, and I set off early. And I'm on this highway, which is dual carriageway, basically, now in our language. It's got a hard shoulder, it's about as wide as that bench. And the little gap between the hard shoulder and the actual road is made up of rumble strips, which we have over here now. But they're a bit sort of basic, they're rumble strips. They're like house bricks. Imagine a house brick welded to the ground every 3 feet, and that's the rumble strip. So you can't get off, basically, unless you're really brave, unless you're in a truck. This truck here was parked up, and the guy walked over to have a look at the bike. 140 foot long. And they do 100 miles an hour. 85, 90 miles an hour is average for a truck that size. So when you're in the rain like that, and I'm actually going down this dual carriageway, it's perfect, dry, clear weather, but ahead of me is the sky, the colour of the ceiling. And you think, eventually I've got to get off this bloody freeway. I'd already realised by now that if the freeway doesn't actually say anything much on the sign, there's probably not an awful lot there. So again, do I come off and not be able to get back on? Do I come off and find nothing? it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I suppose I could give up now and just wait for this storm to go by. Anyway, ahead of me there's a bridge. I think it's like a bit bigger than a bridge, but not as big as a tunnel. This thing, I can see it. It's coming up. It's about 500 yards ahead. As I got through the other side, it was like being thrown into a lake. It was just there. This weather was just there. It's like bang! And I went down from 50 mile an hour to 2. And it has the white lights on. You know that bit where you put your visor up and it stings your nose, and you put your visor down and it stings up instantly because the temperature's dropped. Couldn't see a bloody thing. And literally, I mean, the Galway's got a screen this wide, and the fame for, you know, from weather protection and flying sheep and rocks and all sorts. The difficulty was, what happens is the water sort of comes up in a little river, drops over the top of the screen, and then hangs there like something out of Apollo 13. So, and you're kind of fascinated by it, you're not watching what you're doing, and suddenly when it gets heavy, and this was happening on a regular basis. And I really, that was the scariest, out of all that distance and all that time, it was the scariest 45 minutes of my life. Yeah. So anyway, cut a long story short, I'm not going to bore you too much. That was, what was this under the video? I was just on one page. Not sure what's happening there, guys. Oh.
Hello, Pete. Welcome to Ontario. Good luck on your road to Manchester.
You arrive at Niagara Falls, follow the signs, and what do we expect at Niagara Falls? What I expected at Niagara Falls actually was a jungle with a bit of waterfall in it. What you do get is you get downtown Moss Side on the American side, which is just madness. It's just like carpet. There's all these youths with orange, you know, the high-vis vests on showing you where to park, and it's a bit crazy. Everything's about the falls. Everything, just, you know, a bit tatty, to be honest, the American side. And then you arrive at this park side, a bit like going down to Chester, and you walk down, and the sky is just steam. It's just like like fog. And you walk up to this fence, and there's a fence about that high there, and you kind of walk along, and oh shit! And it's literally, it's that high, and it's 200 foot. Okay, well, and over here in this country, you have fences that high, and security guards and men with machine guns, you know. There, it's just there. You could literally just go like that and step over it into this abyss. But other than that, Niagara Falls is spectacular. If you ever get yourself in that area, go and see it. But it's not what I expected. On the other side of the thing is Canada, basically. So anyway, I've jumped ahead a little bit. Can you just give me a second? I got slightly interrupted by. I jumped ahead a little bit. Doesn't matter. This is my list of places I was going to go to. And this is up in Canada. I went 120 miles on a Saturday morning. The rain stopped, and it was now 120 degrees, literally within 20 minutes. I sat in Manchester, Canada, 120 miles. I found a gas station and a set of traffic lights. That was the town. So I had breakfast, and I just sat there doing that. So anyway, I'm heading south again now. As I get to Manchester, I'm trying to find a sign or sign of life. So I start doing this sort of thing. Number 8 was obviously, I think that was it. That I've lost my thumbs, I can't quite remember. But yeah, Manchester number 8, which is, again, you see these signs, York, and you see Whitby, and you see Portsmouth, and all these names that you recognise. You know, the further south you get, you start recognising names from John Wayne films. But up here, you're getting towns that you know, because think of it logically, people arrived in America as the Pilgrim Fathers. They didn't go very far. They just found their little bit of patch they're going to live in, and that's basically called it where they came from. The Manchesters at this point are all, in fact I've got a list which I should have in my hand really. 100 miles, 50 miles, 20 miles, they're all pretty close. The first week we've got 30 miles, 72 miles, 161, 252, 127. Then we jump a little bit. I said New York's a big place, so the next Manchester, New York was 304 miles from Connecticut. And then I say Niagara Falls with 120 odd miles to Manchester in Canada, which is again a complete waste of time going. I should have just turned around. But there you go, you have to do the job. So on my way back south again, back into America, I had this golden rule of doing 100 miles before breakfast. When you book into your hotel, people, one or two guys have been to America, you'll know, you get two sachets of coffee in a coffee filter machine, One's decaf and one's normal coffee. And if you put them through the machine about 3 times, you get a decent brew. But then you've only got this white powder to put in it because nobody knows what it is. Somebody invented it. And then you get this little plastic stick which is absolutely no use to anything. Not even stir your coffee because it bends. But anyway, so the plan was get yourself on the road, find a nice privately owned, little small cafe somewhere rather than one of these big corporate affairs, and get a decent breakfast. So I was sat in this breakfast bar, 10 o'clock in the morning, and the lady comes on with the coffee. She says to me, "You're going to the Biker Blessing?" I went, "What's that?" She said, "Biker Blessing at Buffalo." I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." She said, "There's a Biker Blessing at Buffalo, and 1,000 bikes turn up today to get blessed for the coming season." Hi guys. Yes, you get blessed. Your biking yourself gets blessed by the vicar. So I'm going now, aren't I? I'm not going to miss that. So I turn around and I go back to Buffalo, about 20 minutes away, and lo and behold, there's about 50 bikes there. It's only early. By 2 o'clock, I reckon there's over 1,200. And there's 90% of them are Harleys, of course, but you've got all types. You've got the man and wife with the frills and the figless gloves and the matching helmets, and you've got the proper bikers. A few Japanese bikes, a few unusual ones, but majority of them were like the big cruisers. And these guys just asked whether they could have a photograph taken with them. These were just representing the local forces of the years gone by. A couple of other guys that asked for a photograph. This was the average visitor. At about 2 o'clock, they it's perfect. 2 o'clock, they shout out over the intercom that the Biker Blessing has now begun. Start your engines. And everyone comes to a point where this vicar's got this great big, 25-litre bucket, like what I call a tar brush, like a long pointy sort of heavy bristle brush. And he's giving it all the old, how's your father up your gas, And he's going, "This week, bloody brush straight in your mush, half a gallon of water." So they went on a ride out to some farm somewhere, and then they basically had a barbecue and a beer. And one of those occasions I perhaps should have stopped, but I thought it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. The next Manchester's only 100 miles away, I might as well carry on. So off I went towards Maryland. One thing that did come on, if you've never noticed Harley Davidson shops these days, everything's orange. The Harley Davidsons are taking it on themselves